Greetings and salutations, viewers and listeners. Welcome to episode 98 of Word Ninjas Live. We made it past 2 years and we're still going.
Somehow.
Somehow.
We flipped a coin, literally.
Yeah. We were debating, should we do a show after 2 years? Let's let the coins decide. But hey, we're still here. And I'm still your instigator of literary and creative productivity. Let's do that. Insanity will be next week, because that's Kineticon. Joining me tonight are Will.
Hello.
Justin.
Hey, are we doing a podcast next week?
Yeah, because it's on Wednesday.
Okay, just checking.
And Calvin.
Hello.
And we have a full show for you this week because we kind of took things easy last week, just talking about how things went the last 2 years, but we're back and ready for more talky points. And the first one is actually going to be relatively quick for us, but relatively long, not wrong, for our viewers and listeners, because there's a lot of links that we've tossed into the show notes for you. The talkie point is, what resources are there for learning the different editing and proofreading styles, like AP versus APA, or MLA, or Chicago? There's a few of them out there, and different people want different styles. I know I was trained on MLA, and day job likes AP style. I kind of prefer Chicago to varying degrees. MLA is just frustrating.
And I only do technical writing, so I don't have to do any of those styles.
Yeah, well, you're special. Do they actually have a official labeled proofreading style for technical manuals and stuff like that, or is it just technical writing?
There's like bibliography style, but that's about it. Like, how do you reference something, and how do you internally reference something? How do you set up a figure in a table? How they show up in the table of context? What you do with an appendix? So there's some guidelines, but they seem to be very loose, and they seem to be, depending on my clients and the customers and their customer, it seems to be disregarded with reckless abandon most of the time.
So the normal then.
Yes.
Yeah, in our show notes, you can find a whole slew of cheat sheets and reference links to AP style, MLA style, Chicago style, and APA style. Because it's useful to have a cheat sheet every once in a while to remember just how do you cite something in this style, or which ones do serial commas and which ones don't, or how do you do number formatting, and that type of stuff. And
Wait. You're saying that different styles have different rules for whether or not you're allowed to use an Oxford comma?
yes,
No.
every single one has a different preference.
No, I don't
Yes.
believe you. That's stupid.
AP style does not like the serial comma.
Okay, do any of these styles have, and I'm sure this is great for the listeners too that aren't familiar, what about double spacing after a period? Is that regulated by any of these guides? Because I hate that.
I don't know if any specify that they want two spaces after a period. I know AP and I want to say MLA both say don't.
Smart.
Because that was more a contrivance for like old school typesetting and even typewriters.
Yes.
Because that's just the way their setup was. You needed the extra space in order to better delineate a new sentence, but digital typesetting no longer needs that.
Right. The only people that I know that still do that are 40 plus. Add a couple pluses usually.
But I know for AP style, that's really more for news-centered stuff, and for to a degree, business writing, since we've decided on that one for whatever reason. And we've tossed various links to some cheat sheets. Basically all of these came from universities. So a nice shout out to all of these universities for actually putting up cheat sheets for anyone to utilize and reference for depending on which style you need to work in. And Purdue is the main organizer for all of these. Like every time I looked up one of these styles, Purdue had a cheat sheet pretty much. And theirs are actually pretty robust and useful, so yay. And we also tossed in a link to the Citation Machine, which is a very useful website if you need to do a bibliography or citations of any sort, because it can auto-format all that information for you in whatever style you need. You can just tell it what you need it, what style you need it, it'll ask what information it needs, and you toss all that in, it formats it for you, and it can even export into various formats for you. I actually used that back in college. It came in very handy.
The last time I even thought about anything or about editing like this, or MLA specifically, was back in college.
But I actually have an AP style guide, a physical version of it. I think it's 2 years out of date now because those things are expensive. It's textbook expensive, which is frustrating. But it actually tells you like that full guide even has social media guidelines, so you can figure out what style or what format to put your paragraphs in if you're doing one form of social media versus another, what to keep in mind if you're doing statistics or referencing states or people or locations, stuff like that. So it's worth keeping in mind just what style do you need to write in for any particular piece, and then find just what are the rules and guidelines for that. And admittedly, some of those are just like actual proper guidelines. They are bendable. You can play around with them. Some of them are relatively hard and fast rules, where if you don't do it that particular way, then it's no longer that style, and it kind of melds into something else. So I thought I'd compile all of these cheat sheets and links and references for people out there who do need to write to a specific style or want to learn more about why all of these are so ridiculously different from each other. I mean, I know AP style is more for, well, it's from Associated Press, so it's more news-based. You got the American Psychology Association style, or APA, which obviously more psychological-based and more referential. I forget what MLA stands for off the top of my head. Is it convenient? Modern Language Association. I just remember that from high school through college and being completely frustrated by it because teachers were very cranky about it. And then there's Chicago style. Because Chicago needs a style for everything, including writing. But yeah, the links to all of those are in the show notes. You can check it out at your leisure.
Question.
Hmm?
Are any of these used for just novel writing, short story writing, or is it all for professional papers?
As far as I know, they're primarily meant for professional, technical, business style writing. I don't think there's a novel-centric style. It tends to boil down to probably between MLA and Chicago, just because those are the two that most people have been trained on or are most familiar with. AP style and APA tend to be more niche. Not everyone's familiar with them or knows just why that would be purposeful for them.
Okay.
Chances are most people write in a mishmash of MLA and Chicago. But that's something worth digging deeper on at some point, just to see which styles have what rules versus how our novels put together. Something for another time. And our other talkie point for this week is just why shouldn't we judge a book by its cover? Because I'm kind of tired of that silly saying. But the follow-up questions were also like, are covers inherently useless displayers of the content within? And if so, what does that mean in regards to cover artists? Because we've actually talked to some, and we value their artistic abilities and style for conveying the imagery and concepts within the book. And there are admittedly some pretty weird, funky, and odd covers out there, and there are some really good ones. So why is there the whole concept of don't judge a book by its cover? And now people should talk.
I almost want to say it goes back to the older days when book covers didn't have anything on them.
Just the title and author.
Yeah, so there's nothing there to pull to it. So book covers were basically, yeah, like that. Boring.
As bare bones as you can get, yeah.
Right.
Just pure info of what is the title, maybe what is the author.
Right. Because don't judge a book by its cover is a pretty old saying, so I would think it stems back to before cover art was a thing. Just saying, yeah, okay, the book looks boring, it's just brown, but inside is a wonderful journey and adventure, so don't judge it by its boring cover. And maybe now that we have actual cover art, the saying is now more just a saying and doesn't apply to actual books anymore. Because there have been quite a few books where I just look down at the cover art and be like, sold. I'm at least flipping through it and taking a look at what's going on here, just because that cover art looks really good.
Yeah, I think judging a book by its cover has never been more relevant than in today's oversaturation of media and availability of such media. You know, when I see a book cover as a semi-layman, if I see a really bad book cover, I know that the author has phoned it in, or at least that's the assumption that I'm making. If you're not even going to focus on the presentation of your material to try to get somebody in, then obviously you weren't passionate enough about your book to care. And that's how I feel about a lot of covers that I've seen.
Like if the cover isn't oriented in the same direction as the book?
There's
I
like
was
that.
going to interrupt Justin and kind of toss our Nimbus 1.0 in there, but you kind of beat me to it.
I think we have an interesting case, and I'm not just backtracking, that ours isn't really a fiction book. I kind of, when dealing with nonfiction, I don't really hold that true.
Yeah.
But for fiction books, like if I see another freaking generic fantasy cover of a dragon breathing fire onto a building, I mean, come on. We need something better now.
Unless
I don't care
that happens,
if the dragon
then
has
what?
lens flare all over it.
What
Unless
if it
that
breathes
happens,
fire
then what?
onto a teepee? Or a tent?
And I've just seen like horrible stock Photoshop jobs where the author has taken it upon himself to say, I don't need a cover artist, I can do this myself, to a woeful degree of inadequacy. And I think that font and typesetting and imagery speaks volumes. Oh, I can't believe I just said that. Says a lot about what is contained within, because it's sort of another extension of your creativity. And, you know, people who are taking care of their book covers, you know, they know what they're marketing to. And if they don't, and they just throw up some shirtless guy next to a horse, then I'm probably not interested. And I can tell when something's extremely generic, and then I just assume that the writing is very generic. I need something different.
Here's a question for all of you. When you look at a book, do you look at the back cover to see if there's a summary of the book or some little blurb about it to learn more?
I
Yes.
look at the entire jacket, including the inside jacket cover. The about the author I'll usually take a look at.
What happens if the book does not have a blurb on the back and just reviews from people?
It goes back on the shelf. If I
Even
can't
if-
find it on the inner cover, it goes back on the shelf.
Even if it has like a forward from a famous author, I mean, you can pay just about anyone to do anything. So I would like at least a paragraph about what's in your book. And I've been actually fighting with this myself because I've been trying to, spoiler alert for later on in the podcast, I'm doing Camp Nano this month. I've been trying to come up with a log line for my novel, and the problem is that basically the first thing that happens is a huge spoiler. But if I don't reveal that huge spoiler in the log line of the book, then people aren't going to know what the book's about. Like, I can't just put in the inside cover of the jacket, bad things happen to a person because reasons. That's not going to fly. But if I say, after a father's tragic loss of his daughter, bad things happen because reasons, and at least it gives somebody, a little bit of context for what they're about to get into.
I don't know, chances are I would use that as a log line just because of the style of writing that I do.
Yeah, I think your fantastical writing could probably have a very tongue-in-cheek inside book jacket description that would actually attract readers.
Bad things happen because zombies.
It would be like bad things happen because the main characters got grouchy. I think the one exception to allowing a book to have reviews on the back cover would be Ellen DeGeneres' book. But that's only because she had fun with it. If you haven't read it, the reviews on the back were all by her about her own book and about how awesome you are for looking at the book and buying the book.
Yeah, if you do something clever with it, that can be fun.
Yeah, and you can tell, like, I've seen some book covers where it's, just some crazy font with a bunch of bad color choices with some slashes through it, and, the words are cut in half slightly. How trendy. It's like, that works for some things, but not really for book covers, especially if it's completely unreadable because of your horrible color choice.
You always see those on the murder mysteries.
There's a few sci-fi books as well that fall under that, depending on their color choice.
This is the usual for fantasy. I have The Lesser Evil by Rappaport here. I don't even know if it'll show up. That's usually what you see for fantasy.
A bunch of dudes stabbing a bunch of other dudes while some weird shit goes on in the background.
Yeah, but usually it's portraying a scene, sometimes even the climactic scene of the story. There were a couple of Drist novels that I think on the cover missed the mark. There's one that just has a picture of Drist and Caddy Bree standing there on the cover. They're just standing there.
I thought I'd take a look at whatever book I had within reach. Sadly, I only have one, and I still need to review the darn thing. But, nice little hardcover that I got from Book Expo. But it doesn't really convey much info as to what's in there. You actually have to open up the book to get an idea of just what you're in for.
I don't know, it has even though it's using generic iconography, is that how you pronounce that word? I think that basically says what's in the book. It's a very general, it's probably some sort of history of, or maybe some anecdotes from being on set, or
No, it's actually just stills from the various shows and quotes from the show.
So, yeah, it doesn't, there's no story attached to it, was what I was trying to...
This one is more just like coffee table fun.
Right.
So this one is kind of exception.
Right, so having really bold iconography actually works out well for that book. I would look at that book and go, oh, okay, let's take a look and flip through a couple pages. And speaking of pages, you know what I miss? I miss full color art inset inside the novel.
That's pretty rare nowadays. If it's just for like a fiction book. If it's a cookbook, then it's a little more prominent.
Even cookbooks. Well, no, yeah, some do have reversed full color pages. That's true. But yeah, I really miss full color artwork. I guess you have to theoretically get somebody passionate enough to do really sweet artwork for your book, and they have to have read the book theoretically.
And if you're doing it yourself, or if you're self-publishing or going through a small imprint, the publishing costs jump a bit with color prints, especially color offset prints that need to be custom fitted into a book.
Yeah, I'm sure that screws up the binding methodology too. And
Yeah. Would be nice to have contact within the publishing industry that we could ask directly about the logistics for that. Well, we do have contacts. It would be nice if we actually contacted them about that and asked them about it.
I wasn't gonna say it.
But that's what you're there for, to call me out on things that I blatantly don't realize.
I'm just too tired. I need this vacation coming up. Thank God it's right after Connecticut.
What, Connecticut isn't a vacation?
I will be in a hotel. It's like a vacation.
And I think you're only going to be working 22 hours that weekend.
And that's at work, not even at Connecticut.
Yeah, I think we only have booth hours for about 22 hours across 3 days or something weird like that. Something like that.
Oh, thank God it's only 7.5-hour days. Wow.
No, it's 8 hours, and then 6, I guess it would be.
You
Yeah,
seem to be nitpicking here.
well, that's what I do.
So book covers. Yes, judge books by covers, and authors, prospective authors, spend a little extra time on your book cover. Please, for the love of God. You have so much competition now, especially with ebooks. Now, any old person can just publish just about anything online, and it could all be misspelled and hackneyed, but they're going to put a cover on it because they're trying to make money. So you have to compete with those idiots.
We'd never do that ourselves.
Well, we should copy edit everything we do.
Yeah, we have.
You know, I should be a copy editor. I'm really good at it. I think the problem with copy editing is when you go through like a big company that does the copy editing, they're trying to increase their profits, so they're trying to read as much material as quickly as possible, and they end up passing over a lot of stuff. Or actually making it worse. I've seen things go to a copy editor, come back and have more spelling mistakes and more punctuation mistakes. And so when I say, oh, I'm really good at copy editing, I'm probably really good at copy editing slowly, one book at a time over the course of 2 weeks. Not what most copy editors probably have to deal with constantly.
Yeah, I tend to copy edit things here and there at work. And if I have the time, I can usually do it relatively well. But if I have to do a rush job, I can miss things because I'm just powering through it.
Right. It's like when I have to verify a technical document at work. I usually do a good job, but sometimes things can slip through the cracks, depending on how much time I'm given.
With that stuff, it's better to do multiple passes, preferably with multiple people, because different people will catch different things. Which is useful because at this point, basically the whole crew has read through Word Ninjas 2.0 and had commentary. So,
Oh, I haven't even had my commentary yet.
That would be a problem considering we need it like 2 weeks ago.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
Well, it's got to be ready for Kineticon, so whatever commentary needs to be done before then. Or you're
My
not allowed to
commentary
complain.
would essentially end up being a complete rewrite, so you probably don't want my commentary.
Well, then rewrite your entire section by...
I thought about it.
We'll be fine.
I considered it briefly. I think there'll be a Word Ninjas 3.0. It might not be called Word Ninjas or whatever we called it, but I think there'll be more writing from us in the future.
There better be. We need more shiny baubles.
Unless birds singing in the background of the audio that I record.
Yeah, take a look and purchase Word Ninja 2.0. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, worse. Well, the audio is all done, so.
Justin goes through the worst plug ever for a piece of thing that you can purchase.
Well, at least the audio is all formatted and good to go. And the ebook is... all the content is there, it's just formatting the damn thing. Which is fun.
You have to use for that. Is that MLA?
It's FCW style.
And it's going to have a great cover that you should not judge the book by.
And all the font is Bookman old style. I hope that's not a problem.
Oh, but I wanted to do just Helvetica.
Helvetica's for hipster suckers.
Each article has its own font.
That actually... Huh. I like that, actually.
We only need 30 different fonts by Kineticon. Calvin, we can get 30
yeah,
fonts
you've
together,
got
right?
some fonts lying around that you've been porting, right?
I have plenty.
I'm sure they all have
Calvin
commercial
has like
items attached to them.
3,000 fonts. We'd be okay.
All the commercial
You guys
licenses.
All right. Let's migrate to the highlights reel, shall we?
There's some interesting stuff in here. As there is, week in and week out. Actually, funny, one of the things in the highlights reel I saw independently like a couple days ago, and I almost debated adding it to the highlights reel. And then I was like, I don't know if this would be that interesting to other people. And I guess it was, because it's in the highlights reel.
Or more, it was just interesting to me. Because I don't think I've seen many submissions from other people lately. So I've just been filling in whatever was in the queue. But yes, highlights reel. We have things to discuss and talk about and show and share. So let's get on with that. First news article is over at the Mary Sue. Smart tropes in sexy books. Positive characterization and good romance novels. Basically discussing how the romance novel has actually evolved since like the 70s. The trope of Harlequin romance is no longer the standard. They have evolved and expanded and created other styles of romance to read. And they highlight just a few particular subgenres, as it were, like how geek girls are actually clever and fun and can be in romance novels and not fill all the negative tropes, which is nice. How people are actually factoring in historical accuracy in some of their historical fiction romance books. And I would say it's about time. You're allowed to have feminist heroes in romance books. And some of the old tropes just get updated for the modern age. But they have some fun little references to interesting books that aren't really quite up my proverbial alley, but if you're a fan of romance, chances are you've either heard of some of these books, have read some of these books, or would at least be interested in some of these books. So definitely worth checking out. And next one up, I just thought it was interesting logistically, but someone created a website where as you scroll, it creates an interactive jazz song. And it's actually pretty fun and interesting once I figured out how to get it to work. It's just jazz.computer. I'm not going to play it on the screen because as you can see from like this little image, it has a lot of stuff flashing through.
Yeah, you need a good frame rate, and it's not going to transfer very well in this video. You got to check it out for yourself.
That and seizure warning, or at least a light one, just in case, because it does toss a lot of contrasting white versus colors at you pretty quickly at certain parts. But it is pretty cool how they put it all together, which is the first link for this particular highlight. And then the second link was to the actual website. And it's an interesting song, and depending on where you pause your scrolling, you can kind of do an infinite loop for that particular section. So worth checking out and playing around with. If
You can also scroll backwards and get totally different stuff.
That just sounded weird to me when I tried it out. But it is cool how they managed to program all that. The next one up is a really cool, to me, map generator. This is over on Stanford's site. Someone managed to create a polygon map generator, and you can do complete random generated maps. And they have different styles, like radial, purlin, square, or blob. So depending on if you need like an old school map, you can do the square or radial. Blob, every time I've tried that, just turns into a star. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with that one, but I've liked the Perlin or Perlin style because that can give some pretty funky shapes. And there's also a randomizer button for the shape. And you can do different style point generation. So if you want it blocky, you can do square, you can do hex, relaxed, or you can just randomize it. And you can select the level of detail, although it can take a little longer depending on how high res you get. What really made it cool for me is you can change the viewing style to, it's currently set at smooth. If you want something like topographical, you can do a 3D slope and actually see like the mountain ranges and where the water fits within the map and stuff like that, and it just auto rotates. Where you can do like, where are all the watersheds on this map? And it'll calculate all that for you, or how the elevation is, where are the biomes. And you can export it as XML or a PNG file. So if you need to figure out a fantasy map or landmass, this is a nice little random generator to play around with and try things out. I know I had a lot of fun with it when I was just playing around with it. And I really do like the 3D slope ability, so you can really see just how that would work. So if they need to travel across a mountain, you know where it would be and how and all that. So worth checking out if you're in need of a new landmass. Next one up is just a really cool poster that covers parts of speech in very nerdy ways. Like, how do you identify a noun? A person, a place, a thing, or an idea. Common versus abstract and all that. Covers adjectives, pronouns, conjunctions, adverbs, prepositions. verbs, of course. And I kind of want one for myself, but I have nowhere to put it. But for the English majors out there, or people who appreciate the quirkiness of the English language, chances are you'll appreciate some of the examples that they put together for explaining just how some of these things work. So worth a quick perusal when you have a moment. And next up, ebooks. Lots and lots of ebooks. And apparently it's video game week because both Story Bundle and Humble Bundle have video game books. Now, Story Bundle has more novels, whereas Humble Bundle seems to have more graphic novels, but we'll get to that. Story Bundle has the Summer Video Game Bundle, which I really, really want because it has some pretty cool books to it. Now, it's just 8 books, and if you pay $12 or more, you get all 8. If you pay $11 or under, you get just the first 4. But you get How Video Games Are Made by Russ Pitt. You get Kill Screen Issue 8, Virtual Reality. You also get Boss Fight Books, Bible Adventures by Gabe Durham, which is all about the history of Christian video games and how they don't always work just by shoving a Bible into the story. You get Put This in Your Brain, The Best of Unwinnable Weekly by Stu Horvath and the Unwinnable Writers. You also get the HG 101 Presents Unofficial Guide to Castlevania by Kurt Kalata. I kind of want that one because I am a fan of the Castlevania series. You also get Designers and Dragons, which covers the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. That one is really more about the actual design and artistic style of dragons in literature across those 4 decades. You also get Scroll number 12, Introducing MSX. And apparently you also get numbers 1 through 11 as a bonus. So it's basically issues 1 through 12. You also wrap it up with The Untold History of Japanese Game Developers by John... I'm not pronouncing that last name because there's no way I can't butcher it. I apologize.
Zapaniak.
Yeah, let's go with that. That one I kind of want too because I am fascinated by game developers across the world and how different cultures create different styles of games and how they all work. And these are all over at Story Bundle for the next 2 weeks, effectively, because this one just kicked off recently. And over at Humble Bundle, the Gamer Comics Bundle. I kind of want this one too, just because I play a fair amount of these games, and I feel like I would appreciate them, but you would get, for whatever price you choose, Fallout New Vegas, All Roads by Bethesda Games, Plants vs. Zombies, Lawnmageddon by Paul Tobin and various artists, Eve, True Stories by Daniel Way, Tomb Raider, The Beginning by Rihanna Pratchett and various artists, and The Art of Remember Me by Alexei Bricklot and various artists. And if you decide to pay the average price, which of course fluctuates, currently it's $7.86, you would also get The Guild Volume 1 by Felicia Day and various artists, Halo Initiation by Brian Reed and various artists, The Art of Bioshock Infinite by Julian Murdoch and various artists. I kind of want that one because The Art of Bioshock Infinite is just fantastic. Valve presents Volume 1, The Sacrifice and Other Steam-Powered Stories by various authors and various artists. And they're going to add more as the bundle goes on, as they do. And if you pay $5 above the average price, which currently would be $12.86, but of course varies depending on what the average price is when you check it out, If you pay that, you get Mass Effect Foundation Volume 1 by Mac Walters and various artists, and Dragon Age Volume 1, The Silent Grove by David Gator and various artists. I kind of want the Fallout New Vegas one, Tomb Raider one, Halo one, because I do like the Halo series, Bioshock Infinite, Valve. One of these days I'll play enough Mass Effect to appreciate that universe. Same for Dragon Age. And the others would just be fun, because why not? So the next 2 weeks or so are really all about video game books, or ebooks as it were, for these two bundles. Definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of any of these games or just appreciate the video game industry. And the last link in our highlights for this week, I did not set it up because it just auto-plays music, which gets a little frustrating. It's Typoroids, which is effectively just asteroids, but using letters, and that's really loud. But it's basically asteroids, pure and simple, but you actually get to play and beat up letters, and they break up into smaller letters, and then it just continues on and on like that. Just a fun little game.
What I liked about it is that it has some things from the original Asteroid that any old lazy developer wouldn't notice, like having a salvo of bullets that then have a delay. That is a nice touch that they kept that in.
I do not appreciate it. I want to just keep on firing.
No, that's how the game was.
Stop. Don't autoplay that. Stupid phone. I wanted to bring up the comments, not play the live stream. That's just silly. Why would you do that?
YouTube should really have like an admin app for stuff like that.
That would be nice. Well, I get like a notification 4 different ways whenever someone actually posts a comment. I wasn't paying attention to just which notification was on top, so sorry about that. But yes, those are your highlights for this week. All the links to that stuff is, of course, in the show notes over on fcwriters.com for episode 98, so you can check them out at your leisure. And next up is the Productivity and Inspiration Station segment. Everybody's favorite time. Since last week, I have effectively survived walking pneumonia. I'm like 99% back to what would be normal for me. So yay! I don't sound like death warmed over anymore. It's about time. And I have been playing with more story card ideas and logistics. I need to get on that a little more because, hey, Muse Food is due on Saturday. But I'm having fun with that, and I really look forward to the finished product once we hit a full deck's worth of cards. And I've also slowly been compiling notes and logistics for Kineticon in general, but mainly for the press stuff. I have not been paying attention to the guest announcements. I'm like a month behind, so when I was catching up, there's a ridiculous guest list for Kineticon this year. I'm really excited for the press junkets.
I need to take a look at this list myself.
Yeah, it's expanded since last time I looked, so they have some pretty heavy hitters there. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to get a lot of good content.
Excellent. Oh, nice. Cool.
How has Will fared since last week?
Yeah. The past week has been interesting. Life decided to throw several salvos of combustible lemons at me. So no productivity happened at all for the past week for me. I was just surviving all of that. But I seem to be out of the citrusy, or almost out of the citrusy minefield by now, so hopefully soon. as Ed types away noisily while I talk.
I was typing too. And how has Justin fared since whenever we last saw him?
I've been pretty productive actually. This month I'm going to do Camp Nano, and my goal for the month. So for those of you who are familiar with NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, but are not familiar with the camp, what the camp does is it's basically NaNoWriMo again, but you can kind of set your own goals, and it's not as strict. It doesn't have to be a novel. It can be a bunch of short stories. It can be a poem. It's basically whatever you want the goal to be. So last Nano, I got about 50% of the thing done, and so for this Camp Nano, I want to actually finish and get to 50,000 words in my first draft of a novel that I'm really passionate about. And I plan on doing a lot of this while I'm on vacation because I'm going to go visit my family, but they are not on vacation, so they're going to be working during the day while I'm visiting them. So I'll have plenty of time to write then. So I plan on finishing out that book and hopefully having it edited by the end of next year and probably published by then. Probably self-published. I've been making time to be productive while at work. I've extended the amount of time that I'm at work just because that's just how my life is, but I've decided to take more frequent breaks while I'm at work. So instead of being at work for 10 hours and then getting paid for 10 hours, I go to work for 10 hours, but then take 2 hours off sporadically and get some stuff done. So that's sort of the compromise I've made with my life. The business plan for Inspire the Muse is actually underway now. Some of the logistics behind it are inspired by a recent episode of Silicon Valley. I guess not recently seen by me. It's from season 1, but I kind of had an epiphany about how the whole company can be set up initially. So I've been working on that actually finally. I've been doing a lot of running. I've been doing Couch to 5K, and for the first time I went out to go run. And about halfway through the run, I started getting horrible shin splints. So I think I'm extending a little bit beyond my capacity right now, so I'm going to have to dial it back a little bit. Shin splints is a thing that you can't really power through. It's basically your tendons and ligaments literally tearing layers off of your bones and muscle, and you don't want to keep doing that.
Yeah, bad things happen if you try to power through that.
Yeah, so you kind of have to stop and kind of reduce your load. So my plan is to, instead of just run, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and do nothing in between involving running, I'm going to do the same track that I usually run or do intervals, and I'll just walk it so that I get nice consistent load on my shins. Hopefully that will help that. And I'm slowly panicking about Kineticon and vacation and other things going on. July is a pretty intense month for me. And luckily I won't have to work, although I say that now. God knows what's going to happen later. But I will be at Kineticon. No one can stop me now. And today I learned that the word panicking actually is spelled P-A-N-I-C-K-I-N-G, which I didn't realize. Seems like a weird exception to the normal add ing at the end of a word rule.
Well, that way you can be the king of panic.
It's true. Oh, mm-hmm. It just seems like a very strange exception.
The English language is odd.
I guess it's because if there wasn't a K, people would interpret it as a soft C. So it would be like pan-icing.
It's probably a matter of etymology and just where we picked up panic from and what the breakdown of that is from that particular language, if it's Germanic versus other, because we just pick up words from various places. So
it's funny you say Germanic because that was my first thought.
That's just the first one that came to mind because a lot of the weird words are from Germanic. So
that's why I thought that initially.
When you break it down, they do weird things when you have to add.
I think Google has a etymology module. I'll look it up while you guys keep going. That's the end of my productivity stuff.
How has Calvin fared since last time?
I feel like I've been overly productive this past week.
Yeah, to make up for the rest of us.
I edited 6 short videos for Infinity's Light last week. And by last week, I mean with this past weekend. I got very little sleep, and I will get even less sleep in the next few days. But things are coming together, and things are looking bright. So I'm very happy about that. Let's see what else. I got a new toy. Hold on a second.
Is it safe to show on a live stream?
While he's getting that toy, so this is why it's confusing, because the origin is from Greek, panikos, which is spelled with a K only, and then it was converted to modern Latin, panicus, which is spelled with a C, and then the French grabbed it and they spell it panic with a Q-U-E, and then it became panic, P-A-N-I-C after that. So the verb panicking probably goes all the way back down to the Greek
Uh,
form.
it's probably based off of the mythological character of Pan. I feel like I've heard that before.
That is that's the origin of the first part, the pan part.
And then it expanded, or it
Right.
evolved from there.
Right.
Okay.
So yes, this is my new toy. It's my old toy. You guys recognize my camera and all the shooting and the videos and the content. This here is my new reference monitor because I've come to realize that in a lot of the videos that I've been putting together, I haven't been able to focus properly the way I would like to. So things are slightly out of focus. That was one thing I noticed in one of the Book Expo America videos that I put up. So this reference monitor here is basically a giant LCD screen that I can better be able to monitor everything I'm recording. And as soon as I can, oh, here we go. Yay! It turns on. It's basically like a tiny TV screen, but I can hook my camera up to it. You can actually see all the see me change settings. Let's see. Let's change it to video camera.
All I see are the lights of heaven.
Probably can't see a whole lot, but it's actually monitoring what's on my camera right now.
Yeah, majority of it is the glare from what I presume is your computer monitor, which just looks like the lights of heaven. And a Cthulhu.
Pikathulu. But yeah, reference monitor. Desperately needed. Got it for my birthday. Happiness.
Yay.
And I've got several gigantic batteries to go along with it to keep it powered. Lord knows, with all the press junkets that are going to be happening next weekend, I'm going to need all the power I can get. Alright, let's see what else happened this past week. Oh yeah, I turned 30 on Monday, so that was a thing.
How does it feel to have leveled up?
It doesn't feel like I've leveled up yet. I'm still waiting.
Maybe there's some lag.
Perhaps. Basically because of all the all the Infinity's light stuff, I feel like I have a -5 to sleep. And at
Well,
least a +7 to all-nighters.
hopefully you'll be able to balance that out before Kineticon.
I hope so. As nothing Infinity's Light related is going to get done that weekend. Or this weekend, for that matter, because I'll be out of town. So, I'm basically trying to cram in everything I can right now. Yeah, I'll make it work. So, that was my week.
It seems like it's been a mix all around. And chances are next week we're all just going to be flailing around in circles about Kineticon.
Sounds about right.
Speaking of Kineticon, hey, events! That's the next one coming up. Literally in a week. Well, a week and a day. And the whole crew is going to be there. And Calvin and I are going to be there as press, no less.
Yep, that's exciting.
We're going to have all sorts of fun there.
And how?
And then a month after that is a KaiCon, where Calvin and I get to road trip it down and join the OTP manga crew. That's going to be a different kind of interesting. Also in August, Inconceivable. Again, the whole crew's going to be there. And then, like a week after that, is Hartford Comic Con, where the whole crew is going to be there. And it would be nice if I could finally update that to say, hey, we're press, but I still haven't heard anything definitive. So, still coordinating. But yeah, we got 3 to 4 conventions left for the year, depending on which one of us you're referencing. So we're going full steam ahead on those, especially as we have shiny baubles that we're trying to coordinate in time for said conventions. I'm really hoping we can get Word Ninjas 2.0 in some format ready by Kineticon. It would be nice. But we shall see. We'll have a definitive statement next episode as to whether or not that is going to be a thing. Because if it's not done by next episode, it's not happening for Kineticon. But we shall see. With that, it's actually a show. That's it. We're done. We ran out of things to discuss. In almost record time, no less. So, if we have entertained you in any way, shape, or form over the last hour, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can watch the previous 2 years' worth of Word Ninjas live and comment on our various shenanigans. You can check out our almost daily Game Break series, where we're covering all sorts of games. And you'll be able to see all the various recordings of the press junkets from Kineticon and other conventions, and check out all the stuff that we've already got from previous conventions. It's all up there. And if you want to talk to us via social media, we're over on Twitter at FCWordNinja. You can find us on Tumblr, fcwordninja.tumblr.com. And we're also on Facebook, facebook.com/fullcoveragewriters. And normally we would pimp out our Etsy store, but with convention season ramping up and a few other things in the mix, we have put that into vacation mode. So unfortunately, our Etsy store is on vacation, at least for a little while. So if you want any of our shiny baubles, your best bet is to find us at an actual convention and purchase it from us in person. Or just wait a month or two and then it'll be all there, ready and waiting for you. And if you want to track me down for whatever reason, good luck at the moment. I'm running around all over the place lately. Your best bet is on my personal Tumblr, which is just fancypantswolf.tumblr.com. And occasionally, if I can make it and swing it, Fairy Tale Podcast as Makarov, Monday nights, 10 p.m. on their YouTube channel. Hey, where can people track down Will? Will is somewhat muted.
There's things. You can usually find me on my Tumblr page at darkhom.tumblr.com, spelled darkhom.tumblr.com. Find information on My Roommate's a Stripper at myroommatesastripper.tumblr.com. The most recent chapter, Chapter 29, actually just went up live for everyone yesterday.
Yay.
And you can check out my Patreon at patreon.com/darkhom.
And can people track down Justin anywhere?
They actually can. So while my normal rule is if I don't post anything, I'm not allowed to pimp my stuff, I did install Tumblr on my new Nexus 6. See, so it's right. No.
You had it.
There it is. It's right there. So now I can post pictures and write little snippets on the fly. So my posting will increase dramatically. In fact, I already have a few things I want to talk about on it. So check me out at mechanicalJustin.com, which is a link to my Tumblr. So if you have Tumblr, you can friend me, and or however it works. Follow, poke,
Stalk.
whatever.
And where can people find Calvin?
I've been kind of laying low on social media as of late, so I guess Instagram will be a way to check to make sure I'm still alive. It's CCWII on Instagram. That's about it.
All right. And with that, thank you all for joining us for episode 98 of Word Ninjas Live. Tune in next week, just before Kineticon, where we're all flailing around in circles. And until then, have a good night, everyone.